Welcome to another episode of In Focus, where we examine the most crucial issues of today. In this episode, we will explore the furious competition in the US presidential race, analyze the devastating conflict in Lebanon, and bring you the latest updates on the war in Gaza. Stay with us for more discussion with experts, guests, who will share their insights on these pivotal events shaping our world. As the US presidential race intensifies, the role of key political figures such as former President Barack Obama becomes crucial in shaping the outcome. With both Kamala Harris and Donald Trump vying for every vote in the pivotal swing states, the competition has reached a fever pitch. Politico magazine has reported that former President Obama, who recently participated in a large event in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, is urging black men to increase the support for Kamala Harris. This call to action reflects concerns support from a demographic that typically backs Democrats. The magazine noted that reports indicate support for Harris is lagging among black males. Furthermore, Politico highlighted that Obama is the most popular figure in the Democratic Party and that his campaign efforts are expected to provide a significant boost, harnessing some of the energy that fueled his historic rise to the White House. Meanwhile, Donald Trump has promised voters that he would eliminate income taxes for Americans living abroad in an effort to attract the support of 9 million potential voters. Joining us today to discuss the latest in the US presidential campaign is Dr. Frank Musmar, an academic and political analyst from Texas. Good evening to you, sir.
Good evening.
Right, Mr. Musmar, what does Obama's involvement in the election campaign signify for the Democratic Party?
Well, eventually they're trying to boost the records uh, because really the most of the polls is showing that their numbers is falling down, especially among the black voters. So in Pittsburgh, as an example, Pennsylvania is one of the states that Obama carried in 2008 and 2012, I think, and the voters. Kind of very hesitant by going the same direction and basically the black voters among the most significant criteria within the United States that they've really been affected by the economy. So I think Obama was trying just to boost the numbers for the Democrats, even though he did not really mention something new or something really related to the main issues that the Americans, especially the black voters, that they are really suffering now.
Dr. Musmar, why did Obama choose this particular time to engage in this campaign?
Well, basically, as I told you, the numbers is talking. Now, in the latest polls, the numbers are not doing good at all for the Democrats. Besides the point that they're like trying to show that they are still doing good, definitely they are not. The numbers are falling down, and it's basically among their base. You know, their voting base. Basically, they are uh, among immigrants, among black communities, among Hispanics. So when they start losing those particular votes, the really chances are really dropping, and it's not really good.
Let me ask you about the implications of his choice to focus on black men and the state of Pennsylvania.
Well, basically, we are talking about one of the most important must-win swing state. It's a must win for either or. Now, for the black men, he is trying to appeal to the black men to choose the first black woman to be the president of the United States. So the numbers is showing based on the polls that the black men are not supporting the idea. This is number one. Number two, there is no actual program that the Democrats are really pushing for their, let's say, for their campaign. Basically, we have to recognize the point that Kamala Harris was part of this sitting government. She was the break-in vote because she is the vice president for many resolutions, including the TIPS resolution, taxing the TIPS resolution within the United States. So the idea is uh, to go and create support for a failing candidate that is not trying to address the most important thing in the United States nowadays, which is the inflation, the borders, the taxations, the wars, and just concentrating on the men and being likely to vote for a first a black president. I think it was a bad message. I don't think it was really a coherent message that he really presented in that rally.
Well, it seems that Pennsylvania is one of the swing states that really, as you said, respectively, have to be taken or have to be won. How about the other swing states, and how is the opinion poll showing in those swing polls?
The latest polls is showing that they are not really doing good. I think the latest one that I've read today shows the percentage up to 56% for favoring Donald Trump. So yes, the numbers are not doing good. They are not tackling the problem with the Democrats. They are not tackling the most important point. They're still talking about dreams and beautiful life and all that kind of stuff, and they're not going for really good programs. So when we are talking about energy, when we are talking about inflation, let me just explain inflation for you in small words. Inflation normally comes because of extra spending. When a government spend extra money, there is inflation, and that inflation normally comes by taxation or extra taxation for a normal citizen. So in order to drop the taxation, you need to increase the income. And that's, as an example, a good message for President Trump, because he's saying that we're going to do fracking and we're going to increase the income by doing energy security, and during a year or within a year he's going to drop the tax. He's going to drop the power bill 50% for the American citizens. That's a plan. So there is no plan really talking about how we're going to tackle the inflation, how we're going to tackle the borders, how we're going to tackle wars. There's no really good message. I was expecting that Barack Obama, because he's been president for 8 years and he was an expert in economy and all that kind of stuff. I was expecting he's going to carry a better plan
But
more than just supporting that black people, you need to vote for black women.
yes.
I'm sorry.
Well, Mr. Musmar, thank you so much for sharing your expertise on the US elections and providing us with such valuable insights into the campaign strategies and the potential impact. Now we move on to our second segment, and Lebanon has been severely affected by Israeli airstrikes, with civilians bearing the brunt of the escalating violence in the recent days. Dozens have lost their lives and many more have been displaced as attacks continue to target residential areas.
كل المستهدفين هن مدنيين.
وضع شيء مرعب، شيء بخوف.
Welcome back, and the Washington Post has highlighted the significant civilian toll in Lebanon due to intense Israeli airstrikes. Citing human rights groups, the article points out that these attacks are sparking criticism once again of Israel's apparent disregard for high civilian casualties in pursuit of military objectives. It notes, as in Gaza, The scale and intensity of the strike in Lebanon mean that large numbers of civilians are likely to be killed as well. Official figures indicated that over 2,000 people have died in Lebanon since October 2023, with more than 1,000 fatalities since the onset of heavy aerial bombardments on September 23rd, affecting southern and eastern Lebanon, the southern suburbs of Beirut, and the heart of the city. Right now, we're joined by Mr. Ahmed Muharram, a writer and political analyst who is connecting with us from New York. Dr. Muharram, welcome.
Thank you so much. Have a good day. Please.
Thank you so much for being with us. And why doesn't Israel care for the fate of civilians in these attacks?
Seems like Benjamin Netanyahu, since he started his invasion to Gaza a year ago, and he could not be able to achieve any target or any success. So that makes him to escape to the front, to Beirut, to Lebanon. And it seems like if what he has in his mind, this long time war has no limit time to be end, is that phase number 1 was Gaza, and now he is moving to phase number 2. In his mind, I think he is using the most critical time for America. America internally are very busy with the election kind of engagement. Plus, according to him, he considers since the 7th of October 23 that the American administration of Biden and Biden himself are in very weak situation. So to come to America 2 months ahead to the General Assembly and he gave these funny speeches to the Congress, he was feeling like he's a hero because of the most warm welcome he was received by the member of the Congress. And it found later that most of them, they will be paid ahead in order to welcome him and give him this kind of reception. In the General Assembly, actually, he shows exactly what is his target. He doesn't care about what America is advising him. He doesn't care about what the United Nations, what the global. So what happened for the last 10 days in Lebanon, attacking the civilians, and also attacking yesterday the UNIFIL, the United Nations. So that's really critical. And if America is not capable or is not in a position to stop him, I think the European Union, Italy and France, they start to give different messages yesterday. So I think the next few days or weeks will be very difficult to Israel. Maybe he consider the mission in Lebanon will be almost easy for him as Gaza. No, I think the story is different. So either America can do something different, or the lead of that kind of problem can transfer from America, from the United Nations, maybe European Union can do something in that regard.
So from your point of view here, we're speaking about, or do you think really that Lebanon could become another Gaza? And do you think the world can really tolerate such a scenario?
The time is very critical because I think Benjamin Netanyahu has step number 1, so phase number 1 was Gaza, phase number 2 is Lebanon. I think the most interesting for him and his target to be achieved later on is phase number 3, Iran. But when it comes to that, I think the conclusion that America is not happy or ready to agree with what all Benjamin Netanyahu is dreaming to do. If Iran will be attacked sharply by the way Benjamin Netanyahu wants to do, that can lead not only the area, but the whole world to another big bad scenario. China and Russia are not far from the situation. They will not lead Iran to be attacked, and they are very close allies. So I think the last few days we were told that locally here, the conversation or the talking between Biden and Benjamin Netanyahu, it took really a very tough manner. But let us hope that Netanyahu can be little bit, at least one time, to be more wise.
Now, the UN has described the rising civilian death toll in Lebanon as totally unacceptable. And the next day, we've seen Israel banning the UN Secretary General from entering Israel. So do you suggest that the UN might take action to curb Israel's actions?
Well, it's not the first time. If the day after 7th of October 23, the General Secretary Guterres, he gave a very good and fair statement. He said that the Israeli has to ask themselves what makes the Hamas and the Palestinians to do what they have done on the 7th of October, because they cannot live like that forever. And the representative of Israel at the General Assembly of the United Nations, he insults the United Nations, he insults America, the country it's hosting on the land, the premises of the United Nations. Also, he insulted everyone, and he said this is the future of the Middle East. So it seems like they have some kind of feeling they are strong enough, and no one can stop them. And that's really critical. It makes the future of the United Nations is very shaky. And I think the General Assembly sometimes, he said, the global has to get some kind of achievement. Since the 70 years when the United Nations was established, the population of the global was 2 billion. Now they are 8 billion. And having 5 countries to be having the strong word from the veto. Now, the General Assembly, I mean the President of the United Nations, he asked for some kind of changing, like give a chance for those 8 billion, to give more chances for other countries like in Africa, in Asia, in different countries in the world, to represent more people, not only 5 countries to be having this veto. It may be 8 or 10 countries. So let us hope that the global can give a good hand to the...
Yes, Mr. Muharrem, let me here ask you. Now, the US has urged Israel to take all possible steps to protect civilians in Lebanon. Now, from your point of view, how serious was that urge? And how serious Israel is really interpreting the American call? And how do you interpret the American response to Israel's actions so far?
To a certain extent, I do agree fully that it is serious from the American side, because the face of America around in front of the world Israeli became very shaky. But I don't think that it will never be ever serious from the other hand. Israel does not consider any advice unless they have to do what they are believing that's good for them. So seriously, America is trying hard to stop this kind of unfair treatment, but Netanyahu and the cabinet of Israel does not care about anything, unfortunately.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Ahmed Muharrem, for joining us today and for your thoughtful analysis on the situation in Lebanon. And we move on to our third segment and last one, the situation in Gaza. And the situation in Gaza remains dire as Israeli airstrikes continue to devastate the whole region. With the conflict now spilling into Lebanon, the stakes have never been higher, and international leaders are grappling with how to de-escalate tensions. In today's news, The Guardian reports a catastrophic situation at Children's Hospital as Israel renews Gaza attacks. Kamal Adwan Hospital in northern Gaza, the only major facility offering specialized care for children, is overwhelmed unable to evacuate critical patients amid ongoing strikes. The hospital faces severe shortages of medical supplies and power, making it nearly impossible to provide care. This highlights the growing humanitarian crisis, with Gaza's healthcare system on the brink of collapse as airstrikes continue. Now we're honored to have Ambassador Marwan Toubasi, a political analyst from Ramallah. Good evening to you, Your Excellency.
Good evening.
Right. So the Israeli strikes have intensified across Gaza with significant civilian casualties. What justification does Israel give for targeting these very particular areas?
Excuse me again, I can't hear you well.
Again.
What's your question?
How do you view Israel targeting those very specific areas, and why is it intensifying its strikes across Gaza, particularly in the civilian areas?
Well, actually, as all you know, you are following what's going on in Gaza, not only in Gaza, in South Lebanon as well.
Yes, indeed.
And in the West Bank. It's a matter of necropolitics that is implemented by Netanyahu government against the Palestinian people and against the evil, according to his description in Armageddon battle between the good and the evil. What's going on is going in total cooperation and collaboration with the United States of America, killing around more than 45,000 still now, around tens of thousands are under the rubbish, and as well tens of thousands are under injured in some hospitals that is still remaining in the Gaza Strip. Gaza is again under total Israeli occupation, with the existence of the Palestinian resistance over there, fighting in what we call, guerrilla war here and there. And Israel is implementing a vision of the great state of Israel. It's a combination of the Zionist vision with the Talmudic Torah vision that depends on that Israel is a land for the good people who are the Jews from a Zionist point of view.
Now, unfortunately, Israel's operations have also expanded into Lebanon, targeting what they claim to they are claiming to be targeting Hezbollah and leading to further civilian deaths. What are the regional implications for this spillover?
Can you repeat, please? Can you raise your voice a little bit? Sorry, I can't hear you.
Yes. Now, Israel's operations have expanded into Lebanon, and we've seen that. And they are claiming to be targeting Hezbollah and leading to further civilian deaths. Those attacks are leading to more and more civilian deaths. So what could be the regional implications for such spillover?
Well, this is not the first time that Israel is attacking Hezbollah and Lebanon as well. And it have happened before. As I told you, this is a part of implementing the so-called the new Middle East. It's an American strategy that was declared in 2000 by Condoleezza Rice. And they are trying, with cooperation of their strategic alliance, which is Israel, to implement this kind of the new Middle East. That is, Israel should be over and above all countries in the Middle East as a rouge state, of course, above the international law, because Israel is not abiding with any sources of the international law and the humanitarian international law, as well with the decisions of the United Nations General Assembly and the Security Council. But unfortunately, there is the United States over there in the Security Council, where Israel could not be condemned or let's say, be under responsibility for what's going on. I think that the fighting is going in high levels over there in South Lebanon. Of course, the airstrikes is targeting Hezbollah, not only Hezbollah, as well as civilians, because yesterday there were about more than 28 civilians who were killed by airstrike in Beirut,
Yes.
not in the southern area of Beirut.
Yes.
And of course, all the past days we were watching and
Yes,
observing the airstrikes that were hit by the Israeli.
Yes, Ambassador Tobasi, we've seen yesterday those strikes. Unfortunately, my time is out, and I have to thank you here for joining us and for sharing your valuable perspective on the Gaza conflicts. And I guess that wraps up today's episode of In Focus. Be sure to join us next time as we continue to cover the stories shaping our world. Many thanks for watching.